In Sri Lanka, a caste-based social stratification system can be seen among its two major ethnic groups, who have roots dating back over 2,000 years. A caste system was extensive from the ancient history of Sri Lanka to the colonial era. Although it is less extensive and important than it has been, 90% of the population still recognizes the system. The Sri Lankan caste system was influenced by the varnas of North India and the jāti system of South India, particularly Tamil Nadu. The caste system of Andhra Pradesh, Kerala and Karnataka is primarily influenced by the varnas. The occupations of ancient community groups have been linked to the development of castes. Although the island's indigenous Veda community avoided the system, ancient Sri Lankan texts, such as the Pujavalaya, Sadamaratnavalaya, Yogaratnakara and inscriptions, show that the castes existed throughout the feudal period. Evidence of caste hierarchy can be seen during the 18th century British Kandyan period, indicating its continuation after the Sri Lankan monarchy. Three major parallel caste systems exist in Sri Lankan society: Sinhalese, Sri Lankan Tamil, and Indian Tamil. Castes. Ethnicity versus caste. It has been argued that until recently, caste may have been more important than ethnicity, religion and language. In ancient Sri Lanka, the Varna system was important because of the Sinhalese civilization's Indo-Aryan roots. Although classified as Shudra, the Govigama and the Valala were the dominant castes from the Dutch colonial period, collectively referred to as Balala. In ancient Ceylon, although marriages between Sinhalese and Tamils were not uncommon, they occurred between comparable castes. Eurasians and South Indian Chettis married into the southern Sinhalese Govigama and Kaurava. Several prestigious Govigama families have mixed Govigama and Tamil ancestry. Discrimination. Although caste discrimination is still found in Sri Lanka, caste boundaries are blurring. Political power and wealth have largely replaced caste as the main factor in Sri Lankan social stratification, especially in the Sinhalese and Indian Tamil communities. In 1951, the Kandyan Peasantry Commission wrote, "As a first step in the fight against caste, it is necessary to abolish the service tenures." Nur Yalman encountered caste division in the Ceylonese village of Teruten in 1954. According to Laxman et al., the Social Disabilities Act of 1957 intended to outlaw caste-based discrimination. Sinhalese castes. The documented history of the island begins with the arrival of Prince Vijaya from India. The island was reportedly inhabited by 4 tribes at that time: the Dewa, Nagas, Jakus and Raksha. Although the origin of Sri Lankan communities is unclear, genetic studies on Sinhalese have shown that most of the Sinhala community is genetically related to the South Indians as well as Bengalis and Gujaratis. About half of the Sinhalese population are Goyagama. Of the 3 native tribes, it is believed that the Dewa are part of the Sinhalese castes. Kandyan castes. In the Central Highlands, many traditions of the Kingdom of Kandy were preserved from its 1818 collapse beyond independence in 1948 and the Land Reform Act of the 1970s. Although large agricultural landlords belonged to the Govigama caste, many now may not own land. Most Goyagama were, however, ordinary farmers and tenants, as absolute land ownership was exclusive to the king until the British colonial period. In addition to the Govigama, there were several strata of occupational castes. Vampirasadeva were the caste who traditionally made and supplied jaggery, hakuru and farmed. The Bathgama caste was also engaged in agriculture with access to some land. The Navandana caste were artisans, the Radha were washers, and this caste is still prevalent in Sri Lanka's laundry sector. The Bairavas were traditional drummers and agricultural wage labourers. The Kannada caste did menial work and were segregated from the rest of the community. The most important feature of the Kandyan system was Rajakariya, which linked each caste to an occupation and demanded service to the court and religious institutions. Southern castes. There are still differences between the caste structures of the highlands and those of the low country, although some service groups were common to both in ancient Sri Lanka. The southwestern coast has 3 other castes in addition to the majority Govigama, which is common throughout the region. Some of these castes' ancestors are believed to have migrated from southern India and have become important in the Sinhalese social system. The 1st century BC in Urudpura inscription referring to Ikaravanavyaka may be the first reference to a specialized occupation. Tamil castes. The Tolkappiyam indicating the fourfold division is the earliest Tamil literature to mention caste. Sangam literature however mentions only 5 kudis associated with the 5 dinai. Colonialism also had influenced the caste system. Indian Tamils of Indian origin were primarily from the lower Indian castes and the South Indian caste systems followed them. The caste structure resembles that of a Tamil Nadu village. Those considered to belong to higher castes, such as Maravarkala, Agamudaya and Valala, occupied the first row of line houses. They did factory work and ground tea. Sri Lankan Tamils. Unlike the modern Sinhalese counterpart, modern Sri Lankan Tamils' caste-based social stratification system is still influential. Within the Sri Lankan Tamil population, many distinctions are made between the northern and eastern Tamil communities. The caste system has stronger religious ties than its Sinhalese counterpart, although both systems have comparable castes. The dominant northern Tamil caste, constituting over half of the Tamil population, is the Valala. Like the Govigama, members are primarily farmers. During the colonial period, they took advantage of new avenues for mobility and made up a large segment of the educated, administrative middle class. Next to the Karaya, a warrior caste, who are today traditionally fishermen and sailors. Like the Sinhalese Karava, they began commercial ventures. The Jāti were merchants. In the center of the caste hierarchy is a group of artisan castes, and at the bottom of the system are laboring castes. Although Brahmins in Sri Lanka have been a minority, the conservative worldview has prevailed among the Valala and similar castes. Changes occurred during the 20th century. Egalitarian ideas promoted by the government have combined with higher levels of education to soften prejudice against the lower castes. This has improved access to employment, education and Hindu temples for all. The Eastern caste system has been influenced by Mukhava, who came to the island from the present Malabar district of South India. They brought Maramakarthayuma law, which influenced the caste system. Mukuwas and Thamilas worked on the sea. During the colonial era, Valalas arrived from the north as government officials.